Okay,
Alrighty.
cool.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Be More podcast. I'm Brittany.
I'm Maria, and today Brittany is sleepy,
Yeah, Brittany's a
as
lot.
opposed to
There's a
me
lot of things
today.
going on with my body. It's fine. We're here. I got it.
It's funny
Distracting me.
because last night and I slept at 4 o'clock as opposed to last week where I slept at like 5:30. I still, but I'm more awake now from that additional hour of sleep that I got, I guess, last night compared to last week. So you can tell I
Well,
only need
that's
like
good.
5 hours of sleep.
Yeah, I don't know
So
how you function on that. Oh my
I
goodness.
don't know.
Okay, so I had a very scary realization last night. Everybody has conversations, or like we have a lot of conversations about how like people are afraid of death, right?
Yeah. Okay, go on.
People, we're going there. We're going there. Okay, so wait until I tell you the epiphany that I had that was terrifying.
Go ahead.
So I never really had. I could never really relate to that, I guess.
The loss of what? What do you mean? Of
No, like
relating to
being
what?
afraid of dying. I could never relate to like that fear,
Oh,
like fear of what
I
comes next.
I wish I was that way.
There's got to be something, right? There's got to be, what is it? Like, why would I not be? And I was thinking, I know that I don't have a fear of that because I have a lot of beliefs in what happens afterwards, and those are really strong. So I feel like I'm less afraid because of that. But so last night we were watching like a show, and it's like, okay, I also realized too, I don't like shows that are dramatic and like super like close to home feely. Like, I don't like that. That's not why I watch television. If I watch television, but we
Uh-huh.
were watching a show, and one of the characters was dying, and there was a scene where he had to like get out of bed,
Mhm.
and he like couldn't do it. He was just struggling.
Okay.
And I had this feeling in my chest of just like, oh my God, like that's what I'm afraid of. Like, it dawned on me. And like that's why I'm so
Mm,
crazy about taking care of my body, is because I'm not afraid of like the dying part. I'm afraid of the like my body, like, and I not cohabitating and like
like your
me
body
not being able to.
deteriorating.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm afraid of. Like, and
Okay.
literally talking about it right now is like making me super uncomfortable. So I'm not that. I had that moment
Okay.
realization
Okay.
last night, and I was like, wow, crazy.
Yeah, I feel like so I it's funny that you're bringing this up this week. I mean, I'm
Oh,
gonna cut this. I'm gonna cut this from the podcast, but like my grandma died this week, like for last year, and my
oh, I'm
dog.
sorry.
No, it's
Oh
okay.
yeah, yeah, yep,
It's okay.
yeah.
Um,
All circles.
cause it's very full circle. So I guess I won't cut this from the podcast. So, um, because my mom's actually in the Philippines right now for my grandma's first year death anniversary. Um,
Oh,
so I mean, to your point, when she was dying, she was deteriorating, and like I think
mm,
that's where my root of my fear comes from too. I don't think I'm kind of still afraid of the unknown, which is kind of weird because like I'm still a practicing Catholic.
right,
So like
right.
you would think that the comfort of knowing that there's a heaven and hell and purgatory would suffice, but I think the Catholic guilt growing up in the church and going to Catholic school from like preschool to like fourth grade really just drove home the fear of like dying and like being a sinner. So it's like
Wow.
pivotal years of like learning. Um
Yeah. Oh yeah.
so that's yeah, so that's like part of it, but also like I think I've always told myself that if I had a choice, I would rather go like within like seconds rather than slowly deteriorate. Like I don't want my
Me
body to
too.
be like deteriorating and like me seeing myself be that way, you know?
And it's so funny because I don't think it. Are you familiar with Craig Beck at all? Do you know who that author is?
No, who's that?
He writes like a bunch of like personal development, and like he actually wrote a really really popular book that helps people with like alcoholism.
Okay.
But he is one of the people who dabbles in like the law of attraction writing.
Okay, okay. Mhm.
And for anybody who's listening who doesn't know what like the law of attraction is, it's like there are so many ways that it's explained. Have you heard of the book or the movie The Secret before?
No. I
Okay.
don't know
And then
any
no,
of them.
it's fine. Like, okay, so
Yeah.
like there's a lot of like really mainstream the overarching thought of all of this is that like whatever we believe or whatever we think is what
Mm-hmm.
happens, right? And like there's a lot of depth to like all of that, but
Like
like so
manifestation of stuff.
yeah, manifestation, yep. And
Yeah.
um it's just really this like the sciences behind all of it are super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to him like to one of his audios, and he was talking about how like he was having like a he was sharing about like the ego and like how the ego
Okay.
lives inside us and the ego is insane. It's like like it knows that it's such an interesting concept, right? Like there is nothing there's nothing that like our body is not ours. Like our body is like a rented space. Like we're not going to be in it forever.
Right.
And like because our ego knows that, our ego is like totally insane and is trying to like YOLO real hard, but also at the same time like wants to make sure that we don't do anything to like end our lives
Mm.
because then our ego knows it's over.
Right. Oh, it's very like
And
narcissistic in some
right,
sense.
like it's
Yeah.
totally insane. Like he was talking about some of
Yeah.
the things with it, and it was so funny, which is why I feel like it's super important to like work on developing yourself because if you let your ego take over, like you're not yourself anymore. Like you're this
No.
crazed lunatic. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and he was talking about how like oh like that fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fear, like, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, I don't consider myself I know I have to battle with mine, but I was like, the fear that I have of like that, like being decrepit or like deteriorating
Yeah.
is very much like got to be an ego fear. You know what I mean? Because I know
Yeah.
that it doesn't like my
Yeah.
body doesn't matter, but I very much like consider my body like me and my body are like we got to be close because if we don't get like me not feeling well right now with what's going on, like
It's not
being a
your
lady
thing.
like doesn't like I cannot stand not feeling like good with my body. So
Yeah.
it's just so interesting. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's also really interesting that
Yeah.
that the heaven concept is still where you are with the afterlife. I think that's so cool.
I think, yeah, I mean, like, I don't go to church. Um, and that's a whole different, like, that's how people practice their religion. But
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I still consider myself a Catholic, even though I don't really go to church anymore. I mean, I just feel like I don't need to like meditate. I mean, there's some days I do. Sometimes I need to like go to the hour meditation, whatever. But also COVID this past
Oh
year,
yeah, it's harder.
I haven't gone to church because like I don't want to go to church and get sick.
Mm.
Um, but it's funny. Well, I think it's really because like it's still such a heavy part of my life, like personally. Like my family
Yeah.
is still, we're all very Catholic, even though uh, up to interpretation, like how people practice their Catholicism and
Very
like
true.
not even just my family, but it's just like people in general. But we still go to like mass if we can. My mom still watches mass on TV,
I love
whatever.
that.
Yeah, so and like again, me going to Catholic school from preschool to
Oh
third
yeah.
grade because I moved to, our town in fourth grade. So preschool to third grade, like that's some pivotal like
Yeah. It's like
learning.
it becomes habitual.
Right. And like it is a comfort. I feel like religion is just a comfort of like whatever your afterlife thought
Oh
is,
yeah.
you know?
Oh yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and like
It's
I
so
think
funny.
one time in high school, I don't remember who it was, but someone asked someone, I guess I was just around and I heard the conversation. Like what would you do if you found out like God was not real in the afterlife or whatever, right? And the person was
Mm.
like, well, I would rather believe now and then find out he's fake when I'm dead, rather than
Right.
not believe him now and then find out, oh, just kidding,
Oh yeah.
he's a thing.
Well,
So I think for me like that was that, like I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And also like I just still practice Catholicism because I want to, and I'm like, yeah,
right.
I still keep that thought in the back of my head. I'm just like, yeah, I would rather
You'd
be that
rather
way.
like have that belief and not need it
Hmm.
than need it and not have it
Right. It's not like
in a
something
sense,
that's
kind
like
of.
I'm not like those like born again Christians where it's like religion's my thing.
Mm.
Like it's like a thing that I have that gives me something to believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I hold on to.
Yeah, I feel like that's
That's how I
where
practice my religion.
that is how I spent a really long time resenting all of it
Yeah, yeah.
and like trying to find other forms of like scientifically based evidence that would
Yeah, yeah,
help
of
me
course.
to like pull away to
Yeah.
give me a foundation to stand on to pull away from it. And I used to have such a hard time with it, but it's so
Hmm.
that was when I look back at it and I think about like would I do the same for my children? No. But now there are other options of ways to do this, but I always think to myself like God is the greatest. Learning about religion and practicing and thinking about gods and thinking about like sin, right, is the greatest way to give kids like a perspective on life and
Oh, for
like
sure. Yeah.
And not I don't want to this is my this is where it gets like but like I feel like kids need to be afraid of something
Yeah,
in some way,
because
shape, or form. You know what I mean?
yeah, I
To
feel like
learn
we
about
talked about this before.
consequences,
Yeah, no,
right?
for sure. Because then they're just gonna go rampant and just like do whatever they
Right.
want to do. Yeah,
So I feel like, I mean, obviously, like you can teach them about their conscience and things like that, but like again, you're talking about egotistical maniacs and teenagers. So like
yeah, yeah.
it's I feel like it's so important to have like when I look back at myself, I'm like, thank God I had that because I needed to be afraid of God. I needed to have something in my brain that was like, this is a good thing, this is a bad thing. But now
Uh-huh.
that I'm older, it's so funny. I don't I don't like the word. So I still have like negative connotations of the way people relate to the word God and like what it meant in Catholicism. And
Yeah, I mean that's a whole. Yeah, I mean we
right,
can go on about Catholicism and
I
like
don't
stuff.
I don't I believe in like the universe. I believe in there being a greater power. I believe
So
in
do
that.
I. Yeah, so do I. Yeah.
I just don't like to use the God label because of the way the God label has been used against me.
Oh yeah, I
If that
mean like
makes
I
sense.
feel like I don't throw the. I mean I can
You know
that
what I
makes
mean?
sense because like
Like
I
it's
don't
a
really throw the word God around when I'm like, even though I am in the root of it saying like God as in like
right.
the
But that like that's
Catholic.
your word. It's like
Yeah.
he, she, right? Like
He.
it's that. Like God is your
I
word
also
for
throw
that.
in universe too. Like I'm not
Yeah. And
so
I just feel more
so
comfortable like
married to the
universe
word
has become
God.
my word.
Yeah,
Like
the older I
universe is
get,
my word.
the older I get, I'm more like, yeah, the whatever the universe says, or like it is what it is because, that's just how the universe is. Like
Yeah.
I don't like
So
God
that's
isn't like
been
yeah, I'm not married to the word God anymore, like as opposed to like us being young and like going through CCD and
but
like
that was all
me.
we knew, right?
Right. So like I mean it is what it
So
is.
yeah, it definitely it is what it is. But my um
Mhm.
there are so many like different philosophies about and like different religious based and just cultural based philosophies about like what happens in the afterlife.
Yeah.
So
But
and
I think
I've
the three major religions are in sync. I feel like also that's a misconception how the three major religions are like not interconnected in some way.
oh yeah,
Like I feel
they
like
totally they
they
have
are. I don't know if people need
there's
to
a
be
way.
reminded.
There's a way
There's
that
it's like a web. Like
they
it's
have
like
a
it's
couple
one.
yeah, they have some
Yeah,
similarities with that.
yeah.
I honestly couldn't even tell you because I'm a weirdo who like again, like trying to make sense of things like has to look into them even
Yeah.
if they're like morbid or creepy. But like I
Oh, for sure. Like, yeah. Duh.
studied a bunch of different types of like philosophies about what happens in the afterlife. And I can't remember if it's I think don't quote me on this, but I think it's like Hindu philosophy. But this is where my brain is at.
Hmm.
So I don't believe in a heaven or hell.
Okay. Yeah.
Partially because I'm starting to lean towards the fact that like we might be in the
We
latter.
might be in
But
hell.
um but there's a philosophy that like okay, so and I guess this a lot of this bases off of like personal experiences I've had.
Yeah.
And we talked about this. I get a ton of deja vu.
Yeah. I
Like a
mean, so do I.
ton of
Probably
deja
not to
vu.
the extent of you, but like, yeah, same. Hmm.
So I get a ton of deja vu and I have a lot of moments as I'm getting older and like more like aware of crap where like I can just see the bigger picture. So the bigger picture that I believe in and that gives me comfort is based in like the science of the fact that like energy can never be created or taken away,
I've heard that
right?
theory. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like energy, you can't make energy, you can't take it, you can't like it can't be not in existence anymore. It's always going to exist. It's just in different forms.
Right.
So like the reincarnation is like totally 100% what I believe in,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I believe in the concept. I don't remember where I learned this from, and it's going to bother me so much, but there's a philosophy that as we are reincarnated as people
Yeah.
over lifetimes
Yeah.
and it's kind of like the purgatory, like the test almost in living your life is that like the
Mm.
point of your life is to live it and learn lessons
Yeah.
and be
Yeah.
better by the time that you're done here.
Yeah.
And then if when you are reincarnated, you're supposed to try to like improve yourself even more. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So it's
I think
like
that's Hindu.
and that's what I think. I think it's
Though
Hinduism.
also don't quote me on that because I've heard that.
So that like
Yeah.
you continue to be in a life like in a form, a physical
Yeah.
form,
Yeah.
like to like literally it's just this obviously you guys can tell that I'm like obsessed with self-development now because it's like that's in everything that I talk about all the time, but you continue to like reincarnate as whatever physical form that is until you can reach like a point of being enlightened.
Yes, yeah,
And
I've
like
heard that.
whatever
Heard that.
way of
Yeah,
so like it's kind of like every time I guess like the best way to explain it is like you're playing a game, right? And like
you're playing game of life. Yeah,
yeah,
to
you're
come
playing
out
the game
like
of
better
life, and
than
every time
last.
you come, the more I don't necessarily think I believe in good or bad decisions, but the more that you can like make
I think it's
yourself a better
improving.
person,
Yeah, yeah,
like
for
by
sure.
the end, the closer you are to getting there. And then like once you do that, like you relive a level of certain a bunch of like different experiences
Mm-hmm.
and things like that thrown at you. And once you hit a certain level, which I haven't totally figured out for myself what that part would look like yet, because
Yeah, yeah,
it gives me comfort in just knowing that like I'm gonna have to come back. But once you hit a
yeah,
certain level is when
yeah.
you end up becoming some other physical form, or you just like end up being a part of the universe, like, and you're not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily in a physical form, but you're always there. If that
Yeah,
like
that
makes
makes
it like
sense.
that's my merger of like consciousness and science and like
And
having a
like your
belief
belief.
in something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because like the
So
older I get, the more I'm like, there's no because growing up in the church, I think in any church, but the Catholic Church, um, it's so God fearing that like you better not sin, and if you sin, go straight to reconciliation. At least this is how I was taught. I'm
yeah,
sure
this is how I
you
was
can,
taught
right?
too. Like that's the way it is.
Yeah, and like just I think when I was younger, I think the fear of death was, all right, what the hell do I do in the afterlife? Like that's so
Right.
long. An eternity with God or like with
Yeah.
Satan or like wherever, like that seems boring. Like I think that's also like what do you do for an eternity? Like,
And that's it's so
right?
funny too, because like that not to say like it's funny because that was how I like calmed myself of like not having the fear of that, because I'm like I'm gonna be
Yeah.
like I tell myself you're gonna be back in some way, shape, or form. You're never not gonna be here again. But
The older I get, that's funny. It's funny because you say that because the older I get, I'm like, there's no way that God's like
that it's just
taking
over.
all of us up there or like going down
It's
there,
gonna be
and it's
super
like, all right,
populated.
yeah. Like I feel like even though I am like a Catholic, like I do somehow still believe that I will be back here.
Heard. But it's also like the other thing is like too, it's God, like you're never
Is
gonna
that
run
like
out of room in heaven. You
sacrilegious?
know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
you gotta balance that out for yourself. But like no, there have been moments where, and again, it's all driven by our ego, right? Because that's the only thing that cares about whether we stay here or not.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
like there are moments where like that's the scary part, right? I've had
Mm-hmm.
moments where like I start to think about death and I'm like, no, it's fine. And then it's not the matter of like what comes next. It's just a matter of like my ego's like, well, it's not gonna be me, right? Like I'm not gonna exist
Yeah.
anymore. That's the part that scares my brain. But
Well, yeah.
that's my brain. That's not me. You know what I mean? Like it's such
I
a
know what you
weird
mean.
like
No, it's very weird
fight.
distinction between the two. It's a very fine line.
And like everybody has a different word for like what they call the other thing, right? Like
Right,
we have
right.
ego, it's ego over some people say soul, some people
Yeah,
say true
soul.
self, some people say I don't know, whatever else people use like to
Yeah,
talk about
yeah.
like the distinction between like what's their brain, the physical manifestation of what it means to be a human being.
Yeah.
And like that part that's gonna be that energy that's a part of something greater
Yeah,
is
yeah.
always gonna be around.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, this was the fun moment that I had on a Friday night while sitting on the couch. And while it happened, and like you know how you like you realize something and you're like, oh my! I literally was just like my eyes got all watery. I was like, what is happening right now?
It's so bad because like I get those realizations, like the whole death. Like I'm not as insane as I was when I was younger about this whole like
Which is
being
so funny because like
afraid of death. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, go ahead.
it's
What
just
were you
funny
gonna
because
say?
like we could go at any point, but like when we're younger, right? When we
Yeah.
look at the length of our lifetime, like we're just like, oh my god, what happens
Yeah.
if?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, being 12 and being like, oh my God, what the hell happens when I die? Like,
Yep.
come on, you're like 12.
Yeah.
Like calm down.
Yep.
But now like it comes and goes, especially during these times of the year, like the winter fall months with my seasonal.
Yeah.
Um, the reason why I'm up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning is because that like thought happens. And then your mind just spirals. And I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yep.
So more so, probably more so these past couple weeks because it is a sensitive time of the year for
It
me.
is. It is. Which
Um,
is like rightly
which
so.
is
It's just a part of like
just my
it's so
subconscious
funny.
just being like, hey,
And
like,
that was another thing too. Right? They call it like your conscious versus your subconscious. Like
yeah,
your
right.
conscious is your ego and your subconscious is like your other part of you, like your real you.
It is debilitating sometimes. It's really annoying when
It can be,
it's very debilitating because
but
then it's like I would be asleep sometimes and then I would wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and be like, hey, you're gonna die soon. And then I'm just like, why? Like the mind of a crazy person, literally
no,
sleeping
and that's the
and
thing.
then you
That
wake
was
up.
one of the hardest things for me to realize. And this is one of the things that I had to realize like really early on. And it wasn't as easy for me to like very clearly create the separation between like when you're young, you're like, oh, I am who I am. Like you know what I mean?
That's
Like
this is all I know.
you
This
don't
is it.
realize that there's a necessarily a difference. And maybe there are people who, you know, like never go their whole lives and they never realize that there's a difference between like your
Mhm.
brain and like
Yeah.
your thoughts and who you really are, right? Like
Right.
and
Right.
like what values you have and what matters to you. And like those two things, like your ego is going to be driven by the environment you come from. Your ego is
Mhm.
going to be driven by like the desire to like fight or flight. Like
Right.
and
Right.
everything else is going to be like all of those values that you have and like what really
Mhm.
matters to you. And like and those are things that come from not your ego, not your brain. Like those are things that you just know in your gut. Like those are your instincts. That's your true self. That's your soul. So it's like I spent my whole life, like my early life, not know like because who like first of all, I wouldn't have been able to handle any of it, but like you are constantly in that fight between you're constantly at war between those two things and like that's what always made me feel uneasy. And then when your ego starts to win, or like if you can't like pull the reins in on your ego and it
Yeah.
runs from you,
Yeah.
like those are when those moments happen. That's
Mhm.
why it's so important to have that awareness of yourself and like know that like your ego is the one who's going to be scared that you're never going to be here again because your ego is the one who's never going to exist again. Like you are going to be here. Like it's not possible for you to not be here. Energy can't just go away like that. So it's just it's very interesting. I've been going a lot into like trying to have that. This is what I do, guys. Like this is literally what I do all week long. I listen and I read to like different things that are related to all of these topics, and I like try to apply them to my life and the way that I think.
Yeah, I mean, to better yourself, if you're going by
Yeah,
the whole your belief system, I mean, this is you bettering yourself for your next life.
yeah, and like trying to like it's not necessarily about I think we talked about this on like our podcast is called Be More. Like
Hmm.
it's not to say like you're not good enough or it's not to say that you know you need to be something else. But it
Yeah.
is just to help you realize that like there if you're unhappy with the way things are, if like you're in that fight between your ego and your true self or
Hmm.
you're just not happy with your life, like the only way that it's going to get better is that if you change you and you can have more, you can have whatever you want from your life, but like you have to be it, you have to be the progress that you want to see before anything happens. And
Right.
I had to make like 3 4 years ago I had to make that choice. Like
Hmm.
I who knows what my life would have been like if I didn't make that choice. And like I think this podcast, at least like for me, I know we've had this conversation about what it is for both of us,
Yeah.
is a lot about like being able to share that because it's not comfortable and a lot of people don't want to share that or talk about it and make it a norm and to tell people, you know, if you're going through this or you have any of the thoughts like even similar to the things that we think about, like you're not alone. Like you're not crazy. This is a real part of like being a living, breathing, existing, and aware and functioning human being.
Right. Agreed. I don't know what else to add to that.
Oh man. So that was our heavy topic for the week. That was all your feels, everybody. I hope you got all in on the feels.
Yeah, I didn't know what we were going into today.
That
We
was
didn't
what
have a
was on my
plan
brain for
today.
some reason. I don't know
I
why.
mean, it comes and goes. That's the thought. I think it's heavy. It's heavy. It's a heavy topic around this time because it's like the holidays and you don't really want to think about
Yeah,
that stuff.
I finally decorated our apartment.
Oh, you did. Mine's. I mean, my house has been
I know you've just
decorating
been there for
since
forever. And while
September.
I was decorating my apartment, I was like, Maria would be so proud of me right now. Because it's funny, we didn't decorate at all last year, but
Yeah.
we were so just like busy. We never would. By the time we realized that we like had forgotten, we would have had to take it down like 3 days later, so it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
But
Makes sense.
it's just this year this, so yesterday was I do not like listening to Christmas music
I don't either.
just because like we listened to it for like 6 months straight and I can't handle it anymore.
Yeah,
So
I'm not good.
yesterday, I was just like, we talk about like being in the spirit of Christmas all the time, or being in that jolly spirit, whatever. And like yesterday, I
That
was
could
like,
also turn into a religion topic.
That could, yeah. So I finally felt that a little bit
Oh, that's
yesterday.
good. That's good.
So like I was driving home and like everybody, this weekend was the weekend that everybody's putting their Christmas decorations up, of course. So like all the houses were lit and it was night. It was like turning nighttime, and I was like, you
Right.
know what? I could go for some Christmas music right now. And it's
Yeah.
and I was like staring at our tree, just looking at the lights. Like it is beautiful. Like the way that we decorate is so nice and beautiful and festive. But like you can easily walk the line of being like into it or like f this. Like don't force me to be jealous. Like,
I feel like that's with I don't know why, but I feel like that's like with super hardcore Disney fans too. Like I don't know why that I made that connection in my brain.
that's a circle.
But I'm glad that you felt some sort of Christmas spirit.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
yeah,
It's like just and then like
especially
it
during
doesn't
this
have to be
year.
like a Christmas spirit. It's just like you know what
The
I mean? It's just
spirit
like feeling good, like feeling something
uplifting, just an
good.
uplifting like
Yeah. Like
thing.
it's so important. And that's why I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna decorate
Yeah.
because I know that like it's fun to be it's not fun to like clean it all up. Like that's not fun. But like it's
No,
fun to
it's gonna
set it up.
suck putting this away after
Right.
months
It's
of
fun to
having it
set it
up.
up and it's fun to look at it and be like, you know, like just as a I was staring at the tree yesterday, like for like a good 20 minutes and
I don't
just like
blame you. Yeah.
watching the lights and had like a very like existential moment. But
Yeah, sometimes I don't know why Christmas trees give us that. I mean,
because
I
they're just
guess
so
like
pretty.
nostalgia too, like just
Yeah,
the
they're just so
symbol
nice
of
and like the lights are
yeah.
gorgeous and like
Especially when there's presents there's presents underneath the tree now, so I'm like, oh,
ooh,
wow, like
mm,
yeah, and like it brought me and like this year there's a lot of presents, and I'm like there are some years, and I'm sure every family can relate that not a lot of presents happen every year.
oh yeah,
So
oh
like just
yeah,
seeing that, I'm just like, oh, this is where life is right now. Like it's like the weirdest thing
yeah. It's like a nice
every
little.
year.
It's like really, it's like it's a good like escapism is not a great thing, but if there's ever been a time when you need escapism, like it's this year. So
Oh,
like it is
absolutely,
nice, a
yeah.
nice, and I think the thing that's really nice too is like
Hmm.
there's a consistency and a stability in looking at your Christmas tree.
Yeah, it's like
Like
a constant thing.
the
It's the
lights
annual
are always
thing.
gonna go unless you unplug them, right? Like it's
Yeah,
always gonna be there. It's always gonna be sitting there, and like
it's like the one thing you can rely on.
yeah, and you can just look at it and be like, wow, that's so like look at how beautiful that is. Like it's just something
Yeah,
that you can
yeah.
appreciate and not have to worry unless you have cats like I do when they like to attack the top of the tree and pull it down. But
That's a whole different story.
that's a whole yeah, that's a different part. But it is like it's so funny because like this year I feel like I like finally have that feeling like that Christmas feeling that I haven't had in a long time, which is super fun.
Same, yeah.
And I literally, it's so funny that you brought up presents. I want nothing to do with presents ever again. I don't want
Getting
both,
or oh,
both.
both ways.
Here's my issue with it.
Yeah,
I feel like it's become such a
monetary thing.
like
Christmas.
it's not. It doesn't have a purpose anymore. It used to be like I do still love giving gifts, but at the end of the day, I love giving a gift that like is super heartfelt and is gonna mean
Oh yeah,
something,
same. I
not
don't
like
think
something that is
that's
gonna
monetary. Like
first
here's like
be
it.
really expensive and
Right.
second be something that
Yeah.
you like don't do anything with in 3 years. Like, what is the point of that?
I feel like yeah. No, if I can, I don't think the monetary amount matters to me. I'm like I don't care how much I'm spending as long as I know that what I'm giving the person holds
It's
some
gonna
sort
be
of
worth it.
right. I don't really look I'm thankfully knock on wood in a very good financial position in my life where I'm gonna be like, oh, this looks nice and I think this is a good gift and I there's some
Yeah.
sentimental value behind it. I don't even care about the price. Like that's a good
See,
thing.
I think it's
I don't
because I'm going through a phase in my life where like
yeah.
things don't hold value to me anymore.
I don't I mean same
You
like
know what
I'm
I
still
mean?
obviously saving money for obviously like a car and like,
Yeah.
moving out and stuff, but like when it comes to gift giving, if it's very set, like if the thing that I'm looking at online or like in a store is very like I can find some sentimental value to give to the
Yes.
person,
Yeah.
I don't care.
Do
I will
people
spend
give
that
you
money.
Christmas lists?
They do, and like I base it off of that, but also I veer off of the list
I feel like that's part of what bothers me too.
of the list stuff.
Because I feel like
I
I
never have
don't
one,
know. I feel
and
like
like
it
I
just
never
takes
have
out
one.
the
The fun of like I know you. Here's a gift because I know you so well.
right.
Yeah,
Like here's a gift because I love you and I thought
yeah,
of you and like there's so much like sentiment to that. And it's like here's the bottom line, guys. Like the holiday season is not about giving and getting gifts. It's just
no,
not. You want to know what it's really about giving and getting? Love. And like I don't think you need to have something wrapped in a bow to do that. And like that's the essence of what bothers me. I feel like if I can just give you like all of my love, if I could physically wrap it up in a bow and give it to you, like that would be wonderful.
I mean, I feel like that's with my gifts.
Well, that's
here's a
good. I don't feel like
here's a
that with my
mon-
gifts anymore.
here's a monetary thing that I can give you that hopefully shows my love in some form
Oh,
of
that
capitalist
whole
way.
concept bothers me so much. I get what you're saying, but it does. It bothers me so much.
No,
But I
I know
have to
what you
get
mean.
over it.
Yeah.
I have to get over it. It's
Well,
something that
because
like it's that walking that line of like this is the world you live in, Brittany. Like everybody doesn't feel you the way you do. Like it really like it's not like a my way is right and everyone else's way is wrong. It's just I feel like
whatever you believe in, honestly.
we get so lost in the gift. Like it really we get so lost in like the monetary fact of like a gift or like the we want that we start to lose what the whole point of all of this is about.
But also,
Which is like ironic too, because like not a practicing Catholic, so like what am I even doing celebrating Christmas? Plus my father's a Jew, like doesn't get any more confusing than that. But like,
well, don't you celebrate both Hanukkah and Christmas?
honestly, we used to
lately, because you used to, didn't you?
yeah, I used to do like the ceremonial lighting of the candles and stuff with my father, and like I still know a lot of like the I'll call them songs, which is terrible, but I still know a lot of them, but I don't actively go there to light them. If I'm there while my dad is lighting them, we'll light them and we'll always like say Happy Hanukkah, but we don't actively practice it
Gotcha.
anymore. Or at least I don't. I don't know if my brother really does, but
Okay. Right.
that is something that we'll get in. That'll be one of the paths that I take in the future where I like really want to learn more about Hanukkah and like Judaism, period.
Yeah, you're not there yet.
I'm gonna like I always get curious about it, but like I'm not there yet.
It's funny
So
because
I'll get
you
there
like
eventually.
kind of grew up in it, kind of, right? Like
Yeah,
not
like very
not like hardcore, your Catholic
very little
side.
bit.
Yeah, right. But you're
Well,
still around
my
it.
father wasn't like a hardcore. My father wasn't a hardcore Jew. Like
Yeah. That's also the thing. It's all
so, like
yeah.
that had a whole thing. My mother was more serious about practicing religion and still is more serious about like her practicing her religion than my dad was when
I feel like I saw her at
we were
church all the
growing
time.
up.
So
But
I saw
yeah,
your
like
mom
the
at
high
church
holy
more.
days we always celebrated with my dad. But
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
oh yeah, she's still like I 110,000% she's gonna be like, so are we going to church for Christmas?
During the pandemic, like
You
I
can
don't.
go. I love
Yeah,
you. Have fun. I think it's beautiful. Like I think the church is beautiful. I think what it stands
I
for is
think
great and beautiful.
sometimes
I get it, but
yes,
like I
absolutely.
don't need to go there to
To
prove anything.
spiritually, yeah. I mean that's how I
Right.
feel about
I
church. Like
have my faith. I
sometimes
have the way that I practice my faith. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I feel like sometimes I go to church and it doesn't do anything for me, and the other times I'm like so moved and I'm like, oh, this is why I go to church. It's like a hit or miss.
You know what
Like it's the
always would get me? It was what is that part? Oh my gosh, please. I hope my mother never
here we
listens
go.
to this. She'll be so mad. What is the
I
part
link her to
called
this.
where the father does like his speech?
The homily, like
There we go. Yeah.
the lecture.
Yes, that part. And it's funny. I don't know what the worst part is. I know like the order of the way things goes. Like with like the verse you sing, this is when this happens. Literally because while I would sit in church, I'd write it down. I'd like check through when it was done, so I knew if we were leaving soon or not. But like the homily was
You
the
can
only
also look
part.
at the book. The book literally has the steps of
Oh,
this.
I know
The
that was the
church.
worst part, and you know me because that I always had a finger on where the last page was, so I knew how far away we
Oh,
were
and
from
you're
the
just
end. Like
flipping.
that was what I did. But like the homily was always what would make or break it. If it was a good homily and I felt like the priest was in it and like the father at the church in our hometown like was usually really good. But like that's always what made it break it for would make it or break it for me.
Yeah, it really depends on the priest. It really, really does. Like I can tell like some priests oh my god, I hope my grandma does not like haunt me or something, but I did not like her priest that did like one of her last like masses. I just did not like him. And I was like, this is
Wait,
so
for
annoying.
for her
So it was
ceremony
during
when
the
she
wake. Yeah, for the
okay
I don't know
I
if this isn't
I don't like those two either. They bother me.
so a week. So yeah, so just a side note, because I know a lot of my friends don't know, the Catholic religion, and just I don't know,
Hmm.
I guess Christianity in general with wakes and funerals. I don't know, whatever. But in Catholicism, there's a 3-day wake where the body's just kind of like laying there in the casket, and you kind of pray over it. There's daily masses and prayers and
Hmm.
rosary readings, whatever, and then comes a funeral where you finally lay the body to rest. So during was it so we came so me and my sisters left, now there's a little background, um Jersey the day after she passed, so the wake was still already happening, and we got there the second night,
Hmm.
because there's also it was like night 2 after the mass, we got to the place, and then night 3 was the last night, and then the funeral, so we had like 2 days before the actual like burial.
Burial, yeah.
So I guess it was, yeah, her second to last mass. I actually read the second, was it the second reading with my cousin? And the priest that led that particular mass, I just did not vibe with. And I was like, I don't want to be mad during my grandma's like one of her last like masses. Like, this is ridiculous. But like, it
Uh,
really does matter what priest you have, because it really makes and breaks the room.
my
Like, I
issue
really,
with it,
and he was so, and like,
like,
why priests should not be egotistical and like very
uh,
narcissistic, and just like, I'm like, yes, I know I am coming from America, but yes, I also do know more about the church than probably half these people that are standing here, so please do
mm,
not degrade me right now. Like,
my
it was
issue
so, I
with
was
it,
so mad. I'm so sorry.
it's so. I feel like I have that for all the ways that like the church and the Catholic religion has like moved forward.
Yeah.
It baffles me that like we haven't done anything with like the end of life situation to like progress it forward, because I
What do
have
you mean?
it bothers me when like it's so cut and I feel like in my mind I've been to and many like I've lost way more loved ones than I wish I had awareness of, but
Yeah.
I
I've
don't
been
like
to
going
one
to
too many
that.
funerals.
Huh?
Yeah, I feel like I've been in for many funerals in my life already.
Yeah, like
Been
I
to.
don't like when I go for a funeral for a loved one and like
It's still, I
it's
mean,
so cut and dry and it feels like you just said the same thing yesterday at somebody else's funeral and now you're just saying it here because you have to, like that.
I think it's hard though I think the reason why it feels so cut and paste, copy paste, whatever, is because they don't have a relationship with the person that passed.
Right,
And
exactly. Which just at that point,
shows the point, it shows people the point that, like, yeah, you're a practicing Catholic, but were you really? Like, you don't
and
have a
the thing that bothers me
relationship
the
with your
most too
priest
is
or
that
your
like some I've
religious
been to
leader.
some where it's like the priest will like talk about that and like be like degrading on that person for not being a better practicing Catholic. And
Which,
I'm like,
that's not what you want from the priest that's
what is happening right
preaching
now?
over your dead body.
That is what I was like, what is like I've had moments like that where I've been there and it's been someone that I loved and I'm like, what? Why do we do this? And then I get to the point where it's like, whatever. So, so here's what this conclusion is:
Whatever.
nobody who is a priest, probably, unless they're like a friend of mine, is going to be reading my last rites or doing that to me in my funeral. The show that we were watching, when the character passed away, he like left instructions for his grandkids to like make it a
Yeah.
funeral instead of a funeral.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I want. I want a funeral.
Yeah. Okay, put that in your will.
I will. I'll
People
write it
should
all
also
down.
have living wills.
Yeah, no, I
That's
have to
also
get
a
on
thing.
that. Which is once we start to have kids and I'm in more preparation for looking at things like that, then. But it's
It's
just like
always
I don't
good.
know.
It's
It's
always good
just
to prepare.
I definitely want. I think that it's so funny when you think about how when you pass away, it's nothing. Like it's gonna be nothing to you, right? The only that time, that funeral, and what happens after is literally about the people that you left behind.
Yeah, that's the
So
symbol, I think, of
it's like
funerals.
why? Like I don't want my last memory, like the last memory that they have of me or like that they're related to me, to be something that's just like
Yeah, like my poor grandma and the
a
priest that
priest
I'm
was
mad
yelling at
about.
me for not going to church enough.
Or a priest is just like, read this correctly. I'm like, I'm reading it correctly. I don't know if other people here are reading
That
correctly.
stinks. And like
Like, I
that's
know
not
what I'm doing.
that's hard.
I
That's
especially
hard.
because I was like, I don't, and also like I didn't want to say anything at the time, because again, I'm not awake. My extended family from
Right.
my mom's side's
You
over
shouldn't have
there,
to
and
do
they,
something like that.
right, and like I'm just reading what I gotta read, and also I'm responding the way I'm responding, and people just aren't doing what they're supposed to do. because they clearly are quote unquote practicing Catholics, but really are they?
Right.
So I just got, it was also very narcissistic of me being like, I'm
That's
so much better than everyone right here, like right now, that like this is fucking annoying. But
but
also I
it's
was like,
like
I'm so sorry.
again, you're literally you're gonna be sad, you're gonna be like you're
Yeah, I
gonna be
was angry.
emotional, and then your ego's gonna go into high gear to try to
Oh,
protect you, and that's what
absolutely.
happens.
Yeah, absolutely. It was very
Like
high, obviously high tension, high everything.
it's those are and those are the worst
And I was so jet
situations.
lagged. Like, I mean, like we
True,
came from
right.
America, just
Put in
like
another
literally just like
layer on
within
there.
that. And it was
I
funny
don't
because
know.
we slept at, and I'm just now just going off about what happened last year. In the Philippines, we slept not at my grandpa, like my grandma and grandpa's house. We slept at the place of the
Oh,
wake.
whoa.
It's very, I don't know if it's very Filipino tradition because sometimes the wakes are at the, I don't know if, so my grandpa passed when my on my dad's side when I was 2 or 3. I don't know if his body was at the house or if it was at like a funeral home because like Filipino families, I feel like there's always at least one person just like with the body until they go.
Hmm.
So my mom and her siblings and my grandpa and like they, all my cousins were actually not all, but like a majority of us were sleeping there,
Hmm.
like in the I guess they rented out. It's the bodies in one room, and then the next room is like a family room. So there was like maybe 10 of us in that small ass family room, just like sleeping on the floor. That's very familial in the Philippines. Like it's crazy. It sounds crazy. It's very like
But no, it's like a
culture
like an
shock.
honoring the body kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my grandpa was in the main room. The main room. I was like, oh, I can't like not like be awake. Like
Yeah,
so it was
but
very
that's that
very
that part. I
emotional.
think that honestly that
That I mean, remembering those times is much better than remembering the priest
oh
because
right,
like
right.
because like and at the end of every night it's a party actually. Sounds very like morbid just thinking of like a whole family just like sardined in a room just like crying over like our dead grandma, but actually like every night someone would sponsor a dinner and like extended family would come and we would party
Oh, I love that.
at the
I
funeral
love
home.
that. Like
So
it's
it was
like
good. Like we were playing cards, we were like getting super caffeinated on like
yeah.
their
It
coffee
always
machine
made
that they
me it
had
would
and
always
the
make
hot
me
chocolate.
laugh. Like especially over the last couple of years with like the family members that we've lost. Everybody would always say like we wouldn't see family for such a long time and then they'd be like, "Oh, like it's so like this is such an unfortunate situation to be like to see each other, but it's
But
nice to
also at
see
least
each
you're seeing
other."
each other.
And
Yeah.
in my mind I'm like, well, it's bringing us together, so at least we can celebrate that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
like do
I hold no resentment or
it
any
is
like ill will against the extended family that we haven't seen in forever.
right. And it's
Because at
like
least we were together for those few days.
it's I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I guess this is more of a personal thing, but like if I'm going to mourn a loss,
Hmm.
I want to do it in my own way. Like I want to do it
Yeah.
myself in my own way. And then like I want to be around other people when it comes to celebrating with that. And it's not like a matter of like I don't want people to see me cry or I don't want people to see me sad, but it's like though me mourning someone's loss and the relationship that I had with them is gonna be different than someone else. You
Yeah,
know
we
what I
all
mean?
mourn in different ways because of the relationship we had with
Right. And it's like
said
we can
person.
all celebrate that person together and like tell good
Yeah.
stories and like be uplifting together. But like when it comes to like processing it, and then the thing that drives me the craziest is like there's so much I don't know if there's everybody's experience with this, but like so much judgment comes into like the way that you grieve somebody else.
I was just gonna go into that.
I'm
Yes,
the
because
person who I'm the person who cries too much
and I
and like
don't
looks
cry
too
enough.
sad and like I'm not like that's how I am. So like
Yeah, and
I'm not
yeah,
like dramatic and hysterical, but like I'm that person who like needs to stare at the pictures and like is gonna have like a whole big emotional thing because that's just who I am.
hmm
So like
hmm
I don't want to be there mourning somebody that I loved and then feel like I have all these people watching me doing. You know what I mean? Like it's a very
yeah,
personal thing. Like
it,
it
it
shouldn't.
is, and
It's
like
so weird that we gather for it.
I didn't really cry. Um, I didn't really cry. I cried when I found out, obviously, right? Because like that's just a bang of emotions that you aren't really prepared for at
It's
any
like yeah,
moment.
shock. Yeah.
For both my dog and my grandma. So I and also with my grandma, it heightened because I lost my dog 2 days before
Right.
that.
Oh
So it
yeah.
was
So it's a
like
lot.
so, and I got the call at like 6 o'clock in the morning from my mom because she was in the Philippines already because my grandma was
Jesus.
sick. Um, But in any case, I didn't cry after that. Like I got to when I got to the Philippines, I saw the body. I was like, "Oh, this sucks," but I didn't cry. The only time I cried in front of people that day was when we were not lowering her down, but all just closing the casket for last time. And my grandpa broke down. That's when I
Yeah.
cried because I
Yeah,
felt
that's
bad
also harder too. Like,
for him. Yeah, I was
yeah.
like, this. Just thinking about it now, it's just like super emotional because like you
Yeah.
don't really see, especially still in Filipino culture, you don't see the men in your family cry.
Yeah.
Especially for someone that who my grandpa is, like I don't see any emotion from him usually.
Yeah. But you're bringing up a good point. It's like that's why we gather at funerals, right? Like
Mm-hmm. It's
the
the
funeral,
support.
that funeral isn't really about, and that's the thing. I guess that's the thing too, right? Like our
It's like
culture
a
doesn't really
celebration.
give us a good
Yeah.
nothing. None of that gives us a really good way for us to do it ourselves. You know what I mean? Like
No. No.
we,
Yeah. You're
you
right.
go to a funeral and like you're in support of the person, the people that are close to that person, right? Or like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
are that person who like needs
Hmm.
that support, which I get, and I totally am
Which is
like
great.
we
Yeah.
should do that. But like
Yeah.
it's really hard to not, you have to figure it out on your own and how you deal with it.
Yeah. It's a learning curve for everyone involved, especially the closer you are
Yeah.
to the person that
Yeah.
passed.
But
It took me a
yeah.
while. Like I'm like, the grieving stages are different for everyone, but I think for
Yeah.
me, I always thought when I was younger again, this goes back to the Catholic religion and the whole conversation we had before, that whoever passed that was super close to me, I would be a fucking wreck. Like I wouldn't know what to do with myself because that just seems like so impossible for like a
Mm,
loved one to super close to me, like my grandma, to like pass away and like, all right, well, how does life go on after that?
right.
But it does.
Yeah.
It
That's the
somehow
weirdest
does.
thing.
It does because like you kind of like pivot to she's not gone. She's just like around.
That is the hardest part of all of it, right? It's not, it's the fact that that person's not here, like not
Physically.
here, right? Like that you can't have interactions with them, and that you have to mourn the loss of that. Like that's all you're like. It's not that you're not. It's not that you're sad. And for a lot of the cases, it's like you can celebrate they had a good life. You can, like, they were sick, maybe they needed to like be at peace. Like there are things that you can celebrate in that. It's just that's the hard part is when they're not there. So like even with like when my uncle had passed away, like to this day something will happen and I'll like have a moment where I'm like, oh, I miss him, and I'll get emotional.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like
Yeah, for sure.
that's that's the part that's difficult in all of it. Is like the realizing, oh,
Yeah.
like I can't talk to that person.
Mhm. Mhm. You're getting emotional.
Because I am.
I see it. It's okay. We took a turn.
We did. And
We took a turn.
it's not helping that I'm like super hormonal right now.
You're on your period. Yeah. We can say this. I mean, whatever.
What's really funny about when I get it. So I'm gonna share a lot about my medical stuff right now, but
Oh, great.
for anybody who doesn't know, I like deal with cysts and stuff like that. So when I get them and I don't have, like, when you don't get your period, like you don't,
It's irregular. Yeah, yeah.
like you go through like this weird leveled out period of like being super stable in your emotions, and then all of a sudden all those hormones start, and then you get a cyst and you're like, and it, you finally get it again, and it's like you have no control over it or anything.
Absolutely
it's like,
no
cool,
control.
thanks.
Being girl sucks.
And we're also just like leveling it on and just putting a cherry on top by talking about this topic today, so good stuff.
Well, you started it.
I know I did start it. It's fine.
You always start this.
I know, you're welcome. But this is the stuff that we don't get a handbook on. This is the stuff that like
You learn as you
and
go.
even our families, like,
They don't know what they're doing.
I love my family, but they don't make the best choices when it comes to all of this stuff. So it's like these are things that I hope that someone can listen to and be going through and be like, oh, I can listen to this and like I can relate to this and like this helps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm grateful though, because majority of my family still don't know how to deal with that. I feel like
But it's hard. It's a hard part
it
of
is
being
very
human.
hard. It's very hard because like you shouldn't. There's a stigma of not preparing enough for when you pass, as opposed to some people in my family are very prepared and think about it, not constantly, but like it's in the back of their mind. We're not gonna be here forever. Yeah, yeah. So it's like, all right, here are my plans when I go. Like, it's not written anywhere, but like at least you know, whatever.
I do that to Dan all the time, and he doesn't like it. Like I told him last night, I was like, if I go before you, I want a funeral. And his response to everything is great. That's what he says to me.
Yeah, that's usually my
Great.
response too. I'm like, okay. Like there's some people in my family like, all right, like if that's what you want, like
Yeah.
this stuff, I don't want to have this conversation, but at least you're prepared. I hope one day that I get to that point where I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
prepared enough that like, yeah, life is fragile and like I'm gonna go soon, so here's my
Yeah.
plan.
True. And
So it's like it's very much
oh dear God.
depends on the people around you and how prepared they are that you
Yeah.
start to become more prepared yourself.
It's like anything. It's
the
like anything where-
education. It's just the lack of education depending on your religion of
because
how
we're afraid of it, and it's just I understand the fear of it, but like it's literally there are 3 things that are guaranteed in your life. You ever heard this before?
well there are two. What's the third?
You
Go ahead.
live, you pay
Oh.
taxes, and then you die.
Yeah, I was saying there are two things guaranteed in life: paying taxes and then dying.
Yeah, those are the 3 guarantees. So it's like you have to. You
As an
have to
accountant,
know.
it just makes me laugh every single time.
And I know, I think it's amazing. And it was so funny the first time I heard it, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is so sad."
But
and
it's true.
Oh my god,
Isn't it true? Even if
And
you're
then I used to have
a
a
lower middle
professor in
class.
college that used to be like, "Life sucks and then you die." And I remember
Yes,
the first
that's
time
also
I
a
heard
good
it, and I
quote.
was like, "What is wrong with this person?" I was like, "Oh, yep, okay, I understand." where
But
he's
it's
coming from now."
the older you get, it gets very realistic.
Oh no, it does, and that's you learn. You can either be prepared or learn the hard way. It's like you gotta decide what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Wow.
Well, if anybody else is out there and is like, we're thinking of you and your loved ones, and
It sucks, but it'll be fine.
it sucks, but it will get better, and you'll have better things.
Just surround
in the
yourself with
forward.
people that care when you're
Yeah.
going through that shit. Like
Yeah.
the people that are around during this time last year, if I didn't have those core people around, I don't think I would have gotten to this point.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's all.
'Tis the summation. I'm sorry. I brought up all this, and now literally what is the topic of this episode going to be?
It's gonna be
The
where
episode
we
where
talk
Brittany brings
about.
up death and we talk about it for 40 minutes.
I think because it's such, it couldn't have come at a better time. Like you could have picked this next week, and I'm like, oh, last week this happened, but like no, it was the week of of everything happening
I'm
to my
there.
life, like last week. So I think
I'm there.
yeah. I think it was just one of those universe things. I won't say
Simpatico.
God. I won't say God because it's more of a universe
Yeah.
thing.
Oh yeah. Greater powers that be, man.
Yeah. So okay.
All right, cool. Well, now we're done. And
Now I'm done.
Now I gotta go figure out how to go grocery shopping in the state that I'm in.
Okay.
But sending everybody lots of love. Enjoy setting up your holiday decorations. Do it if you're like
Yeah, happy
unsure and
holidays.
you're like, I don't really feel like it. Do it anyway. I promise you that
Even if
you're
it's
in a good
one little
mindset, it'll
thing.
make you feel better.
Yeah, even if it's one little thing for sure.
Yes, totally. Alrighty, cool.
All right.
So we'll talk to you guys on the next episode. We actually have a guest coming next weekend, so be sure to join us, and we will talk to you guys then.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.